Hello and welcome to today's Office Hours presentation. It's very nice to see all of you there, whether you're listening to a recording or whether you are attending live. Our Office Hours presentations are a relaxed, informal, free mentoring program that I do every Monday at noon Pacific time. This recording will be available online for a week or so, along with some of the previous week's recording, and all of the recordings will be available in our members area. This is Office Hours number 24, so we've done 23 other presentations, each one on a different subject matter. The reason I am doing these is that I think being a successful small business owner can be a fantastic experience, but it's tough. You really do need the support, and I want you to get to know me a little bit more, because when you do, you'll know that I really care about you and I want you to succeed, and I've been around the block a few times, so I have a few things to share that I think are of great value. Our agenda for each one of these presentations is that we do an in-depth discussion of a particular business success principle. I make a few closing remarks, have some special offers usually, and an invitation for next week's session, and then we open it up for questions and answers. Typically those questions and answers are about the subject of the day, and then we open it up to talk about anything that you want to talk about. Today's topic is on increasing your success, the 4 huge challenges that business owners face. You know that I always talk about the key performance areas of business and relate my presentations to one or more of those key performance areas. And today's presentation is square in the area of leadership. It's your responsibility to take 100% responsibility for the success of your business. And by understanding the challenges that you might be facing is a very good way for you to make great progress in your business and to shore up your foundation for the business and to do everything you can to accelerate your growth and increase your probability of success. So here are the 4 challenges that I see in business today. And I believe, by the way, if we would focus on these 4 challenges, that the United States would have a much greater success rate than they have today. We honestly don't know what the success rate is for small businesses, but it's not nearly what I think it could be if everybody knew what the challenges of business were and made steps to address these challenges before they got into business or while they were in business, especially if they were struggling in business. So here are the 4 challenges that I see that we're going to talk about today. The first one is right-sizing your business. The second one is getting the proper education and training. Third one is getting top-level mentorship. And the fourth one is something I call the inner journey of business. Let's talk about right-sizing your business. We're going to talk about this one, I think, a little bit longer than the other ones because I think it's one of the most important ones. You know, every business that starts out there has a different business complexity profile. And for those of you who have seen my presentation on the Business Survival Bootcamp, I spent quite a bit of time talking about what a business complexity profile is and why it's important for you to know it. But in general, the business complexity profile means that every business is different. It's different whether you're selling roses by the corner or whether you have a florist shop. It's different whether you're a coach or whether you have a consulting business. And it's a different business when you want to bring a consumer product to market or a B2B product to market. Every business is different. Every business has its own complexity profile, which means that in each key performance area of business, there are different things to do based upon the particular business that you have chosen to get into. Not only that, but every business owner has a different skill set, a mindset, and a foundation of experience that they bring into their business opportunity. And matching them is something that almost no one ever attempts to do. I call this the paradox of massive encouragement. The paradox of massive encouragement says that you need encouragement, you need somebody to believe in you and help you discover the greatness within, so you get off the couch and take a chance and take a risk and get out there and put your efforts into the business of your choice. But if you get too much encouragement, if people tell you that, you know, even though you've only got one leg and one eye and you're 5'2", that you can be a professional NBA basketball player, and you believe them, then you take on a job which is way outside of your capability. So there is a paradox when it comes to massive encouragement. And I try to look my clients in the eye and let them know what it is that they're going to be asked to do whenever they're running their business, so we can see whether or not that business is a right fit for them. Because I believe that everyone deserves a winnable game worth playing. But I almost never see somebody start a business that's too simple for them. It's almost always a big stretch for them. Sometimes I think it's like leaping out of an airplane without a parachute. They've gotten massive encouragement about how they can fly and how they can just achieve anything that they want to achieve, but they don't apply common sense to it. They don't apply practicality to it. And there are some really good examples out there for practical ways of looking at businesses. My favorite one is a book called Investing in Entrepreneurs that came out in 2010 by some folks that I know and met and have talked to a lot. This is a strategic approach for strengthening your regional and community economy, written by a couple of PhDs from Wharton in entrepreneurship who have spent 25 years trying to find out how we can increase the success rates of small business in the United States. And what they found is what I'm telling you today, that you have to match the skill set, the mindset, and the experience of the business owner with the complexity and the challenges of the business that they want to get into. So when I met these folks and talked to them, I started studying business complexity profiles. And I've got a map of a lot of different businesses and understand how they're different in each one of these areas. Up at the top of the screen, you'll see the different key performance areas. The L is for leadership, the M is for marketing, S is for sales, and so on. And I give a score to each one of the businesses that are listed in this matrix based upon the complexity that they have in each one of the key performance areas of business, and then rank them on the right based on their total overall business complexity profile. It's a bit of a chore. I don't know of anybody else on the planet that understands the business complexity profiles in the way that I do, and I'm eager to share that with you. The reason I'm eager to share that with you is because there's a success curve out there when we try to match the complexity of the business to the experience of the business owner. There's a sweet spot that says if you take somebody that's enormously experienced, they can safely take on a massively complex business. But if you're a rookie, if you don't have very much experience at all, taking on a massively complex business can be a very difficult thing to do. So one of the challenges of business is helping you right size, helping you find the match, the business that is just right for you, based not only on your passion, but on your capability, your mindset, and your experience. Right-sizing doesn't just happen when you start a business. It is important at other times as well. So I've worked with a lot of companies who found out that their team, the experience of the business owner was not lining up with the requirements of the business. It happens whenever you see an opportunity for explosive growth, and it happens in turnaround situations too. So in each one of these situations, you ask yourself at all times during the life cycle of the business, is this right-sized? Do I have a winnable game here for me, myself, my team, my experience with regards to what the marketplace and the business is really asking me to do? So those, again, the four challenges, right-sizing the business. The next one we're going to talk about is education and training. Education and training, I think, is vastly important. You heard me talk a lot, and you will hear me talk a lot about the key performance areas. The bottom line is that you need to be competent in each one of these areas of business to avoid a lot of struggle, and I think even to survive. You have to be at least competent in product development, competent in leadership, competent in customer service, competent in financial management, or you're going to be hard-pressed to be successful in business. But unfortunately, almost every business owner I know takes the job of being a business owner without even knowing what the job is. They don't understand what their particular business complexity profile is, and they don't understand what it means to be competent in each area of business. And as it turns out, college education and corporate experience is very poor preparation for being a small business owner. Even when you take business classes in college, do you know that you can get a degree in business and not even take a class in sales, not even have any sort of sales training at all? It's just outstanding to me, and that's because college business is there to prepare you for corporate experience so that you can be an effective cog in a wheel in a much larger machine. It's not there generally to prepare you to be an entrepreneur. And I've met tons of people with 20 or 30 years experience in corporate America, sometimes even being a division vice president, who also were ill prepared for the challenges of being a small business owner. It's astounding to me how we in America do not really provide great entrepreneurial training for folks, and how we encourage people to jump out and start a business without getting the education and training that they need, without really understanding that college work and work in corporate America does not prepare you well for the challenges of being a small business owner. There are also very few foundational training programs out there, which of course is why I created my Beyond Business Survival CEO training program, because I saw a gap in the market and an opportunity in the market to help people through creating the CEO training programs that I've created. Most new business owners don't know what they don't know, and then they struggle to survive while they try to learn it by trial and error, try to learn the things that they need to know by trial and error. But unfortunately, every error can cost them $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 or more. And most small business owners don't have the funds to make a lot of mistakes. They can afford to make 1 or 2 or 3 mistakes, but they make any more than that and they're done. They just run out of time and run out of resources. So I think education and training is absolutely critical. The third key challenge that I see for small business owners is on top-level mentorship. You know, a long time ago when we started our businesses, we used to have an apprentice and master model. At the turn of the century, if you wanted to be a carpenter, you became an apprentice carpenter, typically for 7 years, with a master carpenter, and after the end of that 7-year indentured servitude, so to speak, you became capable and were accepted by your society as somebody who could become a carpenter on their own. But we don't use the master-apprentice model anymore. Almost never do we see it when it comes to small businesses. So most business owners never get that top-level mentorship that they really need, not just to learn the skill set of delivering the product or service of the business, but on all of the other things of business too, on marketing, on salesmanship, on financial management, on developing products and services, on good leadership, all of the other key performance areas. They never get the mentorship in addition to the training that they need to have a decent shot of success and a relatively good shot at an easy road out there. So what they do get, however, is a lot of people eager to sell them a piece of the puzzle, a part of the solution. But most of the people don't have a regard for the big picture, for the overall profitability and sustainability of the business. So there are a lot of great marketing people out there, a lot of great financial services folks, a lot of great sales trainers, a lot of great folks who will help you with product development or help you set up an operational infrastructure. But very few of the people that you deal with are really focused on your overall long-term profitability and sustainability. Their job is to sell you their product. Their job is to sell you their service. Your job is to see how that fits into the overall picture, which is very hard to do if you don't have enough experience to understand what the overall picture is. Most of the service providers that you will interact with as a small business owner don't have that top-level mentorship perspective, and very few of them have very much skin in the game at all. It's not their business. Their business is to sell you a piece of the puzzle and a part of the solution. Your job is to get the top-level mentorship. Now, the good news is that there are some exceptions to this. There are some businesses that you can get into that have a lot of top-level mentorship, and I want to share those with you so that you can understand what I'm talking about a little bit more. First of all, you can get that exception when it comes to buying a business. When you buy a business, there's almost always some sort of turnover in between the previous business owner and you as the new business owner. Typically, there is some sort of a year-long or a couple of year-long buyout scenario where the previous business owner is heavily motivated to make sure that they're transferring over all of the knowledge necessary and all of the relationships necessary for you to be successful in business. because a lot of their compensation for the business depends upon you being successful. If you're not successful, then they're not going to get $200,000 for the business. They're only going to get $100,000 of the business. So they're very incentivized to make sure that you get the top-level mentorship that you need in order to be successful in the business that you have purchased from them. Same is true with franchises. Franchises go through a tremendous amount of effort to make sure that you get the right training necessary so that you're successful with their franchise, because they don't make money whenever they sell the franchise. They make their money by taking a 5, 7, 9% royalty every year on the revenues that you generate as a franchise owner. So they are heavily incentivized to make sure that you get the top-level mentorship necessary for you to be successful in business, because that's the way that they get paid long-term. If you're starting a brand new business, not buying another one and not buying a franchise, there's a specific methodology that I talked about in a previous office hours presentation, the Lean Startup methodology, which is focused on making sure that you're building a profitable and sustainable business long-term. So if you're thinking about bringing a new product or service to market, I strongly encourage you to sign up for my library, listen to the Lean Startup methodology presentation that I did a few weeks ago, and study that and get a mentor on your team who understands what Lean Startup is all about and can help you apply scientific principles to starting and growing your business. And again, the Lean Startup is focused on your long-term profitability and sustainability. It's one of the few startup methodologies that I've found that is focused on that. Another exception to the rule is when your investors take an operational interest in your company. So if a venture capital firm, for example, would choose to invest $5 million in your business, you can bet that they're going to take some level of operational interest. You can bet that they're going to do something more than just sit on the board of directors. They're going to suggest a CFO that you might hire. They may suggest a COO or a chief marketing officer that you might hire, because they know that you need additional talent and experience on your team in order for them to get a return in the business from their investment in your business. They're in it for the long term. They're very focused on the long-term profitability and sustainability of the business, because they know that that's the only way that they're going to get a return on their business. You may also find some accelerators and incubators that take a long-term focus, because a lot of accelerators and incubators choose to invest in your business. They will provide some services at a deeply discounted rate and also take a % ownership in your business, and they're very focused on your long-term profitability and sustainability. However, most accelerators and incubators work with high-tech companies. So if you're a low-tech company, if you have a construction company, for example, or your roofing company, or a printer, or a tailor, or something like that, you're not going to be of much interest to accelerators and incubators. They're mostly interested, like the venture capital firms and major angel investment firms, they're only interested in companies that have a tremendous upside, the potential to be a $100 million business or greater over a period of time. Another one is microloan programs in developing countries. I talk about this quite a bit in the opening section in my Beyond Business Survival training program, so I'll just briefly mention it here, that in developing countries, the communities there, the villages there, have a tremendous amount invested in the success of every business that comes on. If the new business is not successful, then they can't pay back the loan, and there's no more money in the village to invest in other businesses. So they are heavily incentivized to focus on the long-term profitability and sustainability of the other business. And the last exception here that I see is when you get a mentor as a partner in your business. When you get somebody that's been around the block a long time and they have some interest in your business, usually an economic interest, usually it's a piece of the revenue stream or an equity ownership in the business that they're focused on. When you get those people in your business, then you've got somebody in your business who is focused on top-level mentorship and helping you address the challenge of your inexperience when it comes to starting and growing a business. The last challenge area I want to talk about is the inner journey of business. And then we talked about this briefly in last week's office hours presentation, but let me review that to you. Every business is going to have challenges. It's really about maintaining your focus and overcoming your fears whenever you start the business and whenever you get punched along the way. It's about rolling with the punches. It's about dealing with the challenges that you are going to experience. The customer who doesn't pay, the deal that doesn't come through, the employee who leaves at just the wrong time, the contractor that doesn't show up for you. Every business owner is going to experience those challenges, and having a really good approach to dealing with those challenges, to maintaining your focus and overcoming your fears, is really important. You have to find ways to successfully manage your stress and deal with the challenges of business as they start to present themselves on your health and on your emotional and mental well-being. Sometimes the right thing to do is to be courageous and suck it up and just do the job anyway, even when you're tired, even when you're upset, even when things are not going your way, to not quit and to be persistent. That's sometimes the right thing to do. Sometimes the right thing to do is just let it go. Just say, you know, stuff happens and I'm not going to let it bother me anymore. I'm just going to take a big breath and breathe it out and let it go. And sometimes, I think, in fact, most of the time, I think the right thing to do is to learn the lesson that the challenge is teaching you so that you don't make that same mistake again. If it's about people not paying you, then learn the lesson of having great credit policies. If it's about people not really understanding the service that you intended to provide, maybe it's about improving your agreements or the way that you communicate with that client before they sign on the dotted line. To me, I think it's very useful to say that there's always a lesson. Anytime that you have a challenge in business, there's always a lesson, and it's your opportunity to learn from that. A lot of people, however, focus everything on the inner journey of business. I see a lot of motivational and inspirational speakers that focus on the if you dream it, you can do it, and if you believe it, you can achieve it. We all have greatness within us message, and they ignore the other three challenges. So while you're focusing on the inner journey of business, my strong encouragement to you is that you don't ignore the other three big challenges of business. Don't ignore the responsibility you have to right-size the business to your particular skill set and experience. Don't ignore the opportunity that you have to get the right education and training. And don't think for a second that college education or time in corporate America is sufficient, that it really does teach you how to be a successful small business owner. And by all means, focus on getting top-level mentoring. People who care about you, people who have experience in your industry, people that can help you avoid the mistakes that they themselves have probably made whenever they started and grew their business. And while you're focusing on people who will help you with the inner journey of business. So here's your homework. First of all, right-size your business. Make sure that the business that you are undertaking is within your capabilities. Add to your capabilities, add to your team to fill in those gaps in your experience to shore up the foundation in the ways that you need to shore up the foundation for your business. Make sure that there is a right sizing between your capabilities and the capability of your team and the complexity of your particular business. Understand the job that you are creating for yourself. Understand what your business activity profile is. Understand the skill set that you need to be successful in the next 6 months in your business. Get the training that you need to avoid the mistakes that will slow you down or shut you down, and get top-level mentoring for your business. And the last one, of course, develop your tactics for managing the inner journey of business. That's our presentation for today. It went a little bit quick. We're going to open up for questions and answers in just a minute, hopefully with comments and questions on the topic of the day, and then any other issues. And if you wouldn't mind typing into the chat window what you got, what were your biggest takeaways or your biggest insights from the presentation today. That helps me tailor the presentation if I choose to give this particular one again later on down the road, and helps me know what really was supporting you in the way that I want to support you. And tell me what you're going to focus on. If there's a takeaway or an insight that you got, let me know what you're going to do to move your business forward based upon the knowledge that I shared with you today. Before we get into the question and answer, I want to talk a little bit about some of the programs that I have. I offer consulting and coaching services. I have a library and a membership program, and I also want to talk about my Beyond Business Survival CEO training program. First, in the services areas, I'm immediately available for private mentoring for strategic plans, business plans, and financial models. I'll be attending the CEO Space Business Growth Conference. It's coming up in about 4 weeks. There's plenty enough time to do a strategic plan, even a business plan, and develop a capital offering so that you can go to that business growth conference and be prepared to be supported in marvelous ways. And my programs start as low as just a couple of $100, so pricing really shouldn't be a barrier to using my services in some way. We also have the library membership program. The Paul Hoyt Library has all of my office hours recordings. This is number 24, so there's 23 more of these that I think are going to be of great value to you. There's also dozens of business document templates, spreadsheets, processes, agreement, etc. I'm also putting some bonus inspirational messages in there, and I add to the office hours library every single week. The library has 3 different pricing options. There's a $279 lifetime one-time payment, a $79 annual payment, or you can have access to the library for a whopping $9.38 a month. My Beyond Business Survival CEO training program is that critical small business owner training that I believe that you need, that I talked about for challenge number 2 today. It's what you need to know when you're the CEO, because I know that if you don't get the training that you need, you're going to make mistakes that will slow you down and shut you down. And I think the program's worth $10,000, $20,000 or more, not just the first time, but every time that you go through it. It is a self-paced, on-demand learning program, so you can go through it as often as you like, has complete audio with transcripts, and dozens of critical success principles that you need to know as a CEO. The price for this is only $497, and today the bonus, if you buy it in the next week or so, as long as this bonus is on, you also get a lifetime membership in the Paul Hoyt Library. So it's really quite economical for you to buy the Beyond Business Survival program. I also encourage you to join me, connect with me on Facebook. I've been publishing an Energy of the Day inspirational message every day for about the last 65 days, and I think this is going to continue, for the next 5 years or so. And next Monday, I'm going to do a small presentation on the art and science of writing business plans. That's going to be the subject of a much longer presentations that I'm going to do at the CEO Space Business Growth Conference coming up in 4 weeks, but I want to do an abbreviated presentation for everybody who's in my office hours program next week. So next week it's all about the art and science of writing business plans. Let me know what topics that you would like for me to address by going to paulsurvey.com and do your homework. And with that, I'm going to open it up for comments and questions on the topic of the day, and then any other issues that you'd like to talk about. Be sure to let me know what your takeaways and your insights are. Let me know what future topics you'd like for me to present at or upon at paulsurvey.com, and my contact information is showing on the screen too. So thanks for being great listeners. Audra, did we have any questions or comments on today's presentation?
Hi, Paul. We certainly did have some comments. There's a few takeaway comments. Okay. Walter is saying right sizing is something he really needs to think about.
Super.
And Dr. Vogelman is mentioning that great mentors who have experience, not just degrees, are something that he's going to consider.
Wonderful.
We have questions.
Wonderful.
So Dr. Vogelman is asking, how do you outsource in order to right-size your business?
That's an interesting one. So let me give you an example. If a business is in a turnaround mode, we used to have a bookkeeper and an accountant working for us, but the business has fallen off and we no longer can afford them to be full-time members of our staff. So we might choose to, unfortunately, let the bookkeeper go and outsource the bookkeeping function, or let the accountant go and outsource the CFO function. Same thing's may be true with fulfillment. But I'll go the other way with an example on fulfillment. If we used to have We used to be shipping like 20 orders a day, and our office manager could handle the load, but now we're up to 50 orders a day or 60 orders a day, and the office manager is consistently working overtime and is not real happy about that. The right thing to do to right-size the business through outsourcing is to hire somebody else, either bring somebody else in or outsource to a fulfillment center to start doing all the shipping to free up the time for the office manager to handle some of the other things. So it's pretty easy to tell when it's time to hire somebody. It's really challenging to tell when it's time to let somebody go. That is a real mark of a very experienced business manager, to understand that the assumptions or the particular business situation that caused them to make a great decision in hiring somebody are no longer in place, and they're in some sort of turnaround mode, and it's time to adjust the size of the staff because the business has changed. In my particular business, I went through that a few years ago when the recession of 2008 hit. When it first hit, I had 2 or 3 associates, and my lovely bride was working full-time in the business. But when the business went in the dumper, as it did for many, many businesses in the United States in 2008, the right thing for me to do was to downsize my business, which is what we did. Now we're in expansion mode again, which I'm pleased to say. But so even if you're hardworking and bright and intelligent and have years of experience, those right-sizing opportunities can come upon you either in the area of growth or in the area of downsizing. Great question. Thank you, Doctor. Next one, Audra.
So Dr. Vogelman is asking another question. How do you incentivize experts to cut your cost? Do you offer stock options, stock itself, lifetime supply of hot dogs maybe?
I do like the lifetime supply of hot dogs. That's a pretty good one. I see a couple of different ones. Sometimes I see deferred compensation arrangements in return for some higher compensation. So somebody may say, I would normally charge you $10,000 for this service, but we're going to defer that compensation, and when the funding comes in or when the profits start to come in, instead of paying me $10,000, you're going to pay me $15,000. Another example might be, I normally charge $10,000 for this service, but I'll take $5,000 in cash and $10,000 in stock. A third way is what I call a gain sharing agreement. So we would agree on a percentage of the additional revenues, a percentage of the profits, or a percentage of the increase in the value of the business over time being paid to the service provider for their work. One of my mentors, Dave Mead in Denver, Colorado with the Mead Consulting Group, does a lot of work in the gain sharing area. He and his clients agree on what the value of the business is today, and they agree that based upon his services typically provided for a reduced cost, that 3 years from today we'll do another valuation of the business and he'll get compensated based on how he helped the business grow. So sometimes it's the deferred compensation area, sometimes it's part compensation in cash and part in equity, sometimes it's a gain sharing agreement, sometimes it's an agreement that says you'll pay me 3% of all revenues for the next year, or 10% of profits for the next year based on the services. A lot of creative ways to get that top-level mentorship where they really are focused in your long-term success. Some service providers love to do that. Other service providers are just more focused on the transaction, which says, nope, I'll just do the work for you today. I'll just give you the training today. And it's just a transaction, and it's your responsibility whether you use that service or that product in a way in which you are profitable and sustainable in the long term. Great questions, Doctor. Thank you. Do I have another question, Audra?
Actually, we have a little feedback from Dr. Irwin, who is saying, excellent, you took the holistic approach, which is not typically used. Most of the time it's piecemeal. Also, mentorship is mandatory. Thank you for emphasizing that.
Thank you, Dr. Owen. Yeah, I actually think it's really hard to have that top-level approach. I mentioned earlier that, I thought that I knew a tremendous amount about business, and I really think I did when I set out to be a business consultant in 2001, 13 years ago. But there's a big difference between somebody that's worked at 2 or 3 businesses and somebody that has worked with hundreds of businesses. It gives you a perspective that is extremely rare in the marketplace about really seeing the businesses for what they are. In chess, and I don't know if any of you follow chess out there, Magnus Carlsen, probably maybe one of the best chess players in the history of mankind, recently won the world championship. One of the gifts that chess players have is what they call sight of the board, which means that they can instantly take a look at any chess game at any stage of that game and understand exactly what the next move is going to be. After a while of working with dozens or hundreds of businesses, I've developed, and I know other people can develop it too, what I call a sight of the business, which means quickly being able to discern exactly what the business needs to be focusing on for the next 90 days to help them move forward, and seeing that step-by-step growth plan. That can really only come from a lot of experience in a lot of different industries with a lot of different sizes of businesses. So that's very valuable. I encourage you to get that, whether it be from me or from somebody else. Get that top-level mentorship, that voice of experience on your team, and pay attention to them, and take their suggestions and advice to heart when it comes to deciding what you want to do to make sure those next steps are the right steps, as I like to say. So thank you, Dr. Owen. Other questions or comments, Audra?
Yeah, we have a lot of activity today, Paul.
Good.
So how do I measure my own skill set? Because, well, I think I'm pretty special and I'm really smart.
God love you. I don't know who had that, but I think you're special and smart too. But the key is measuring your skill set against the requirements of the business. So, for example, if you have a consumer product, in the legal area for a consumer product, you need to understand intellectual property. That is a skill set or an experience level that you need to understand, maybe understand the different types of patent filings and the laws around patent filings, and maybe understand the difference between patents and copyrights and trade secrets and other types of forms of intellectual property. So that is a skill set that's required for you. So we would need to understand first what the requirement is of the business, and then simply ask you questions. Do you have any experience in this area? In the area of financial management, I talk about some very common things that most businesses need to do in terms of managing cash flow, making sure that they've got their books done right, making sure that they're in compliance correctly, making sure that they're running payroll correctly, making sure that their credit policies are in place, their insurance policies are in place, business taxes and licenses are properly being paid. Those are things that almost every business owner needs to focus on. So the question is, do you have any experience in these areas? Have you ever run a payroll system before? Have you ever hired and managed a bookkeeping team before? Do you know anything about insurance? Do you know anything about setting credit policies and managing your business for credit policies? Not every business has all of those success requirements, but many of them do. If you're selling roses by the street corner, you don't have to worry about credit policies because it's a cash-only business. You probably don't have to worry about insurance. You probably don't have a payroll. So it really depends on your business as to what the requirements of your business are, your business complexity profile and your business complexity profile, and then we simply ask you the questions. Do you have any experience in this area? Do you have any education and training in this area? Do you have anybody on your team who does have experience in this area? And if not, then you've got a gap. And when we create a business foundation profile, which is a specific consulting tool that I invented and that I use with almost all of my clients, that's what we're focusing on, is understanding the gaps in between what's required of your specific business and your experience and the experience of your team. So it takes, first of all, understanding what the job is and what the requirements of your business are, and then it takes a conversation, an intelligent conversation with somebody to understand what your gaps are. Thank you for that great question. Next, Audra.
So I think after this presentation, I'm way over my head. How can I get traction right away? What do you suggest I do first?
Well, it's a little bit self-serving, but give me a call is a pretty good idea. You can go to schedulepaul.com, and anybody who's listening to this call, either recording or listening live, can go and pick a 15 or a 30-minute slot, and I'm happy to talk to you about where you are and hopefully give you some tips and also show you ways in which that I can help you right-size your business. I've got a variety of different consulting packages, and some of them are extremely low price that can help you do that. And talking about that price, it's not uncommon for business owners to spend $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000 every month on their business, especially if they've quit their full-time job and they're after their business full-time. Whatever it takes for them to take care of their own personal financial needs, essentially that's what they're investing in their business every month at a minimum. So it does make sense for you to work with somebody who can help you accelerate your growth to really minimize or to reduce the investment that you're already making in your business. You're already spending a tremendous amount to grow your business. It just oftentimes makes sense to have somebody on your team who will help you reduce that time to market and help you reduce the time that it takes for you to get to financial stability so that you can reduce your overall investment in your business. So give me a call. Go to schedulepaul.com and set a time. I'd be happy to talk to you. Next question, Audra.
Paul, we actually have some people asking about PDFs of today's presentation. Maybe you could remind them where they can find the current office hours?
Yep, so the slideshow from today's presentation and the full recording for today's presentation will be available at paulhoyt.com/tribe/office-hours. And it's going to be in the follow-up email. If you're on this presentation, you'll get the links in the follow-up emails that I always send out by close of business tomorrow or Tuesday, and you can get them there. And if in the meantime, if you're on this presentation, you're hearing me right now and you want to get the slides before then, just send me an email and I'll be happy to send them to you in advance of posting them on the website. This presentation is available for free, probably until next Monday when we do the next presentation. So I try to leave the office hours presentations up for free for a week, and then we put them behind the curtain in our membership area where you have to pay a whopping $9.38 a month to get access to them. Next one, Audra.
So Darlene is looking for a mentor in resort development, and all the CEOs that she's approached say they don't have the time to take anyone on. Do you have any suggestions? She's contacted the CEOs of several chains and resorts. She's contacted them via email and is currently hitting a wall.
Off the top of my head, it would be to offer them a pretty good incentive plan. To offer them not quite a partnership, but something that does make it worth their while for them to be focused on helping you grow your business. And I don't know what that looks like to them. Sometimes if you can give them an upside that's worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars to them personally, then you may be able to find that top-level mentor who is now they're heavily incentivized to make sure that you're profitable and sustainable. So the bottom line is money talks. If you've got a salesperson, your commission plan, your overall compensation plan means a lot. People are motivated by money. Sometimes they're motivated a little bit just to help you out for free. There's a lot of wonderful people out there in the world who are happy to give you 15 minutes or 30 minutes for free. But if you want somebody's long-term focus and their long-term focus on your sustainability and profitability over a long period of time, you have to make it profitable for them too. You have to give them a reason to invest their time with you other than just the opportunity to help somebody out. Next question, Audra.
Dr. Irwin is asking, what are the key non-negotiable criteria that you look for when choosing a top-notch mentor?
Well, first of all, non-negotiable is ethics. Is non-negotiable is the feeling that you have when you're talking to them. Do you feel like that they're really looking out for your best interest, or do you feel like that they're, pompous or arrogant in some way? So I think non-negotiable is the feeling that you get, how you feel about yourself whenever you're talking and engaging with them. Do they support you? Do you really feel like that they want you to be successful? And on the other side is, do you feel like that they're just to toot their own horn and they're just in it for themselves? So number one, non-negotiable is the feeling. Number two, non-negotiable is there's a couple of, you may need multiple mentors here, but you absolutely have to have one mentor that is experienced in your area of business, that understands if your area of business is heavy equipment, that's been in the heavy equipment industry for 20 years. If your area is cosmetics, that's been in the cosmetics industry for 20 or 25 years. If your area is real estate development or resort development, that has been in that industry for a long period of time, and they have the experience necessary to be able to help you avoid pitfalls and overcome the challenges that you're bound to face. That being said, there's an old adage out there among investors that says you never want to invest in a successful entrepreneur's second business, which means that they might have been just lucky when the first business came around. They might have just hit a window of opportunity in the marketplace and succeeded in spite of themselves. So if you're looking for somebody in the business, I think more than one success story in your particular industry is very important. So as it turns out, business consultants come in a couple of different flavors. There's those that have industry-specific expertise, which I just talked about, which I oftentimes call domain expertise. And the other area that business consultants can have expertise in is in process expertise. Somebody who understands the process of creating a strategic plan, a financial model, writing a business plan, the process of hiring and managing a sales staff. And not every business consultant that has industry-specific expertise also has process expertise. So make sure that you ask a lot of good questions about their experience in your particular industry and their experience as focusing on the process of starting and growing a business too. Great question. Thank you for that. Audra.
So what happens when you encounter significant change in the market such that you have to reconsider your verticals? Do you scrap your business plan, start over, cry? That was from Dr. Vogelman.
All of the above. And I'll lend you a handkerchief the next time I see you, because that happens a lot in business. Sometimes conditions change out from under you. Sometimes the competitive industry changes. Sometimes the economic outlook changes. And you just got to start over with an idea that there are no sacred cows here. You look for the core pieces of your business that you can salvage, the ones that are being successful. You, again, start looking for the low-hanging fruit. So when businesses first start, that's what we do. We look for the low-hanging fruit. What can we do right now today to engage with the marketplace as quickly as possible and get ourselves to financial stability as quickly as possible? And then we expand. So it's not uncommon for a business to start out with 1 or 2 products and then over time grow to 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 different products. Whenever you find yourself in a turnaround situation, you have to find those 1 or 2 or 3 products, again, that really can help you create a profitable and sustainable business, and let all the rest of them go. And it may not be the ones that you started out with, and it may not be your favorites. It may be one other product line or service line that you need to focus on, because that's the one that's giving you your revenue that you need today. That's the one that's giving you your profits that you need today. So I think that's the rule of thumb. No sacred cows, and look for the low-hanging fruit. And if I may suggest, other thing is get yourself a turnaround specialist, because sometimes it's really hard for that CEO to fire the people that need to be fired, to discontinue the product lines or service lines that need to be discontinued, to shut down the offices that need to be shut down, to turn off the lights that need to be turned off, etc. It's really important for you to get a turnaround consultant on your team who can help you make those decisions in a very dispassionate and unattached way. Thank you for that question. Next, Audra.
Paul, actually, I have something for Darlene, if I could.
Please.
Darlene, there's two things right away that I would suggest if you tried email. I would start looking on LinkedIn for people that have the experience that you're interested in becoming associated with, and possibly, you know, start a conversation with those people. And the second thing is there may be Facebook groups of people with similar interests or similar desires who may have information that can help you contact the people you need.
Thanks, Audra. Next question.
And also somebody mentioned Google Plus groups too for Darlene.
Yep.
Somebody's asking, where would you recommend somebody goes for information on trademarks? Sort of a sideways question, but is an attorney necessary, or can you do research on your own?
I think both. You know, when first of all, I learned a lot about what I know about everything at the CEO Space Business Growth Conference. So every time that you go to CEO Space, there's usually one or more presentations generally in the area of intellectual property that helps you understand what a trademark is and what the difference between that and a copyright and a patent is and a trade secret is, the 4 different forms of intellectual property, so that you can get a general overall understanding. When I got my 4 trademarks about 7 or 8 years ago, I filled out the applications myself. I hired somebody for $100 to help me fill out the applications, and then I filled them out all myself. All of them were rejected, so then I went and hired a securities attorney to help me answer the challenges and the claims that came back from the department. But overall, that was a more economical strategy than hiring a intellectual property attorney from the very beginning. So you've got trademarks are fairly simple. Copyrights, I think, are the simplest. Well, trade secrets are also pretty simple because you don't share the trade secret with anybody. In order of complexity, I think copyrights are really very simple. It's like a $35 filing fee to have your own copyrights. You probably don't need a lot of legal advice to do that. Just, you know, get out to your network and see if you know anybody that has filed their own copyrights before. Trademarks are a little bit more complex. Like I say, that I had somebody help me, and my first 3 or 4 were rejected, usually because of size of image or some other issue that you didn't know about, that I didn't know about at the time. Patents are really complex. You really have to work with an intellectual property attorney if you think that your patent or your idea mightn't be patentable. And the key area in that is you can't take it to the market. You can't sell something and then later on decide that it's patentable. Once that you have put it out into the market, especially internationally, then you can no longer file for a patent on that. So it's important, if you think that you've got an innovation and it might be patentable, that you need to be talking to an intellectual property attorney right away to do a patent search to make sure that you're not violating somebody else's patent, and also to give you some suggestions on things that you might do to your product or service to tweak it just a little bit to make it more patentable, and then pursue the patent before you start selling that product or service, or really even telling anybody what that product or service is all about. Hopefully that was helpful. We have 12:57. We've got time for another question or two. Audra, do we have any more?
I actually have a follow-on really quick to that. So does that mean that if I want to do something like Kickstarter and I have a really great idea, I should go get my legal stuff in order first?
Absolutely, 100%, absolutely. You cannot tell the world what your idea is and then go back and hope to patent it. You have to apply for the patent first and at least get a provisional patent before you start selling it in the marketplace and before you start telling generally the public at large what your product or service is all about. And by the way, the patent laws changed substantially in March of last year. In March of last year, now I believe that there's even more secrecy than there was before then. So if you think that you've got a patentable idea or service. I mean, there are a lot of different types of patents, right? There's utility patents and process patents and design patents. So there are different types of patents. If you think that you've come up with something unique and you want to explore whether or not it's patentable, then the first thing you do is get a hold of an intellectual property attorney or a patent agent and do a patent search. And those typically can range from $800 to $1,200 or so is a general rule of thumb or ballpark price range to get a patent search done. And then you can make decisions on what to do after you've completed the patent search. Next question.
So just a quickie off topic. Aaron wants to know who the author / book you recommended a couple weeks ago on sales was.
Eric Lofholm is by far my favorite sales trainer. I really believe he's the leading sales trainer of his generation. If you go to my website at paulhoyt.com, you'll see a recommendations tab there. And click on that and you'll get a link to go through and listen to, I think it's 21 free videos that he does, so you get to know him a little bit better. I've worked with Eric now for about 2 years. I've purchased and studied 2 of his sales training programs, and in full disclosure, Eric is also a client of mine. It's been my pleasure to be a business consultant and a coach to him for the last couple of years. So I know the man, Eric, and I know the programs, Eric, and I know the business that Eric has, and he's by far the one that I recommend. Eric Lofholm, go to my website on the recommendations page and get signed up for his free stuff. I know you'll love him too. And one more, and then we'll call it good for today. If you have one more question, Audra.
Paul, I do. You mentioned one of the things was sort of the spiritual side of business. And I know you mentioned you were going to do something with that side, or you have a program. Are you ready to share more information about that?
I offered people the opportunity to be one of the first people to take a look at one of my training programs or one of my works that I've been working on for about the last 6 months or so, called the Universal Laws of Creation. If you want to take a look at that program or have some more conversations with me about how I see the relationship in between spiritual growth and business success, I'd be honored to have that conversation with you. At a high level, business growth always requires professional growth. Professional growth almost always requires personal growth, and that means working on our stuff. And working on our stuff is something that I strongly encourage everybody to do every day. I call it the awakening game, the game that we play with ourselves to become a little kinder, a little wiser, a little happier, a little stronger, a little more loving every single day over the course of a lifetime. Playing the awakening game just can help you live life in a most marvelous, marvelous way. So I've written a lot of books in the area of spiritual growth. My next work is called the Universal Laws of Creation, and I'd love for people to take a look at that and give me some feedback on it. And with that, I'm going to close up the call for today and wish you, as I do everybody, a most marvelous and prosperous day. This is Paul Hoyt. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
The organizer has ended this